Welcome back, Cobra Nation, to another episode of the Cobra Corner. We've got a lot of action to dive into today, including some exciting wins for our men's and women's soccer teams and a standout performance from our tennis squad at the Coker Invitational. We'll also give you a preview of the upcoming matchups this week, from field hockey and volleyball showdowns to cross-country competitions. Get ready for the highlights and updates you need to stay in the know about your favorite Coker Cobra teams.
All right, as Will said, we had two pretty big highlights on the week. So men's soccer 2-0 on the week with two South Atlantic Conference wins. And tennis had a huge weekend at the Coker Invitational over in Florence at the Florence Tennis Center. And into men's soccer.
Yes, we'll talk about those two wins. The first one came against Catawba, and the Cobras, much like their game against the Rail Splitters, got off to a hot start in the first half, scoring the first two goals to take the lead in the first period. Both Frederick Benedicts and Jesper Shearholz scored unassisted goals, with Shearholz putting a mark in the scoring column for the first time this season. Congratulations to him. Catawba then responded with a goal before the halftime whistle to cut the lead to 1 with a score of 2-1. And then Coker continued their stellar play in the second half, with Oscar Kufin netting his 6th goal of the season off of Vitalis Takawira Jr. assist to wrap up the scoring in this one with a final score of 3-1. So congratulations to the men on that win. And then they just turned it around and did it again on Sunday against Emory and Henry, with the first half was a stalemate, with both of those teams being unable to gain any separation from each other. Coker outshot E&H 12-0 in the first period of play, but couldn't take the lead. But in the second half, however, it was a much different story. Within the span of 2 minutes, 2 goals were scored to go up 2-0 within the first 6 minutes of the period. So those guys came out firing for sure. Later on in the contest, the Cobras scored 2 more goals, with the final score being 4-0 in this one. Oscar Kufin once again led the Cobras with a goal and an assist. The other goal scorers included Yori Kaiser, Frederick Benedicts, Rodrigo Tostado, Leo Souza, and Tom Dixon providing assists. David, what's your thoughts on these games, these two stellar matchups?
Yeah, so it was clear from the first whistle that in the Emory and Henry game, I'm talking, that they had outplayed them the entire time. I mean, the stats showed it. At the end of the game, they outshot them 22-2. And in the first half, it was 12-0. But in terms of goals scored, you can outshoot somebody 12-0, but it doesn't matter when the ball isn't going into the back of the net.
I've had plenty of games like that. You keep getting them on net, but it just don't go in. You just gotta, eventually they'll fall. It's just like for instance, like hockey, in general, like 31 shots a game. Like the team who has 10 might score 2, and then score 1. It's just all about how many quality shots you get rather than quantity. Yeah, they were peppering them all day, so it was just about time before one went in.
It was, and the hard thing about those games is that you can get frustrated with the fact that it's not going into the back of the net.
Absolutely.
And then you just kind of get complacent, and then the play starts to drop, and that's when the other team can surge forward.
It's almost like they feed on that. They see you getting frustrated, like especially with body language. They see that and they're like, okay, they're getting frustrated. Like, let's attack.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
I had a game like that when I was in my undergrad, where my alma mater had the same thing. It was a top 10 matchup, and I think we had won 1 game all season, and we tied them 0-0. So it's those games where they go in and they kind of take the opponent for granted, but that's not what happened in the second half.
No, they showed composure for sure.
Yeah, they
came out for a reason.
Yes, yeah.
But Michael probably gave one of those speeches again, like in the last game when we were here.
For sure. And they obviously took that to heart and kind of ran with it, because we watching the game, you knew who the better team was.
Yeah,
but sometimes the score doesn't necessarily show who the better team is. So
it kind of did in this one.
It did at the end of the game. At the end of the day, it did.
Cream rises to the top.
Yes, and and then in the Catawba game, it was a little bit closer. But regardless, they gained the separation. I mean, 3-1 is still a pretty good win. And moves to 7-1 on the season, with 1 loss being to a team who may be in consideration for a top 3 ranked team in the country in Limestone. They've had a couple really, really good weeks since they played us. They beat us 1-0, but they beat Catawba last week 7-0. And they had a really good. They beat Wingate this week, who was in the top 10 in the country as well. And they beat them pretty convincingly, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's if that's our one loss,
it's not too bad.
Yeah, it isn't. It isn't. And so I'm excited to see where we end up in the polls again this week. I think we move up a little bit more. We were 18.
Yeah.
And so I think that inching closer to the top 15 again is a possibility. So yeah, that'll be great to see.
Just come out tomorrow. Is Tuesday.
Tomorrow.
So
yes.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're listening to this,
so stay tuned to the Coker Cobra's Instagram. We'll tell you guys what it is. It'll get posted.
Yes, for sure. And then kind of a very similar aspect in the women's game at Emory and Henry. So a 3-0 win against the Wasps. Each team exchanged chances in the first half. A lot less shots. Coker only had 2 shots on goal in the first half. But Emory and Henry's women's team is pretty strong.
Yeah, because they beat Carson Newman, which beat us.
And Carson Newman beat us convincingly too. Now it was 3-1, and it definitely wasn't our best performance of the year. But regardless, the results showed that Emory and Henry beat that team and beat them convincingly. And they beat us convincingly. Yeah. Carson Newman did, that is. But, so they knew not to take Emory and Henry for granted into this one. What you see on film versus what happens in person are two very different things. So, and then continuing on, second half progressed. They continued to have opportunities, weren't really capitalizing on things. But then all of a sudden, 70th minute rolls around.
Boom.
Yeah, and within the last 20 minutes of the contest, the Cobras scored 3 goals. Kira Bolka ripped a shot in the back of the net to give Coker the lead at 1-0. And then Maya Clark added her team-high 7th goal in the 79th minute. And then Bolka added a second goal for herself in the 89th minute to just put the icing on the cake and put it at 3-0. And
it's too fresh in there.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. You do understand that the 2 girls we just mentioned that scored the goals, and also and that first Kira Bolka goal, Maya Clark did all the work. Getting up to, hopefully it wasn't counted on the stat sheet, but there's an assist. Her assist should be counted on that first goal, but she did the work to get all the way up the field and then just laid it off to Bolga, who just easy goal back at the net. So 2 freshmen, 2 stellar freshmen, and
future's bright.
We've got them for 3 more years after this. So.
Yeah, not to mention that. And then Ryan Parkin, she may not be a freshman, but she's a sophomore. She stood tall in the goal too.
Yeah.
Not a clean sheet for her and a dominant win. So, I mean, she saved all 5 shots that were on goal. So, shout out to Ryan Parkin too. For sure. And there was earlier in the year in that game against Limestone where we beat them 2-0 here at home. She had 7 saves in that one, and you could tell. Maybe not by necessarily looking at the stat sheet, but like you could tell visually watching the game that she was the determinant in that one. So sure. That game was a good game to watch.
It was electric to watch. I loved being on the call for that one. I loved getting hype, and everybody else in the area was getting hype about it too.
Yeah, but I know we had some a lot of matches going on this weekend on the tennis courts over there in Florence. So tell us a little bit about that. How that went.
Goodness. Look, I could be here for the next half an hour talking about everything.
Give us the summary, the recap.
Yeah,
shortened recap.
Yeah, shortened recap is the key.
I knew there was a lot of success that happened this weekend.
Yes. Off the top of my head, the clear ones are we had all 4 champions. Men's doubles, men's singles, women's doubles, women's singles. are men's doubles, and then also in those 4 finals, all 4 of those, 7 of the 8 finalists were Cobras. So yeah, so in 3 of the 4 finals, we were playing each other. So we did pretty well.
Yeah.
The competition, like, now it wasn't the cream of the crop competition like you see at the ITAs and stuff, but like at first when I saw the competition, I was like, oh, we're gonna have a day. But as I watched the competition, the teams that were there, Benedict College, Johnson C. Smith, Chowan was the other team there that was pretty strong, and I'm missing one. Columbia College was the other one, and then us is obviously. But as I watched the play, everybody had good players. And everybody does at this level.
Yeah.
So it was impressive nonetheless. The women's singles final was Jade Belagy versus Emerson Banning, and Jade is our 1 singles and Emerson is our 2 singles. And so I think there was a little bit of added, kind of let's get this win for our 2 singles in Emerson. Yeah. And Emerson was actually our women's singles champion. It was not our 1 singles player. So great play by her, beat her 6-4, 6-1 in straight sets. So I think at that point they were really tired. So I'd love to see both of them play again and play at their strongest. But when you're playing, everybody played 6 matches in the course of 2 days. So it's a lot of tennis, and they were tired.
I bet.
Men's singles, the final. Speaking of tired, it was Tom Lammers and Sam Winter was the final, which is now on the men's side we don't really know where everybody's going to be in the singles lineup, but it's our 2 highest rated players in terms of the universal tennis rating, UTR, and they battled it out. They split sets, and then they asked, they were like, hey, can we just like end this here? And then Coach Tom said yes, and so they kind of moved on, and they didn't finish that one, but so they were co-champions. Men's doubles, 2 of our pairs, the champs were Sam Winter and Benedict Whitman. Whitman's a transfer in. He'll be a sophomore this year. And the other pairing was Joao Casas and Andy Hunn. They beat them really close, 7-6 set. And then on the women's doubles side was the only final that didn't have 2 Cobra pairings in it. And who came out was Jaden Emerson, who's our 1 doubles pair on the women's side. So great, phenomenal showing all around. I could talk much more about the rest of the matches. Everybody else down the lineup, almost all of them did really good. So I'll have a recap out here by we're filming this Monday. I'll have it out probably by the end of the day on today. So look for that for more detail, because I could go so much more into detail on it. But yeah,
Amy loves his tennis,
dude. It doesn't get covered enough, so I make sure it gets covered.
All right, like always, we're gonna look into this week with all the games and matches going on beside Coker Athletics. So first, we're gonna start off with field hockey, who takes on the Wolves of Newberry tomorrow evening, so Tuesday evening, here at Hartsville at 6 p.m. The girls look to get back on the right foot with a big sack win, so good luck to the girls tomorrow. And then they'll head to Limestone in Gaffney, South Carolina on Thursday for a tilt with the Saints at 6 p.m. And then moving inside, we've got volleyball, who travels to Wingate, North Carolina to take on the Bulldogs in a sack showdown at 7 p.m. Tuesday evening. And after that, on Friday, they will travel up to Tusculum for a sack contest at 7 p.m. And then men's soccer will take the short drive over to Florence to take on the Patriots of Francis Marion in a classic rivalry game Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, they'll head to the Coker Athletic Turf to take on the LR Bears Saturday night at 7 p.m. Should be a good one. It's always good when men's women's soccer play Saturday night under the lights. So
for sure. And then
rolling right into
back over to tennis.
Yeah, back over to tennis.
They have a quick turnaround. They play Thursday and Friday in the Belmont Abbey Invitational. Like you said, men's soccer and women's soccer both playing Saturday night. Women's soccer does not have a weekday game this week, but they will take on the top 10 ranked number 9 Lenore Rhine Bears in Hartsville Saturday at 4:30. And then men's and women's cross country on Friday, they travel up to take on the Royals Cross Country Challenge hosted by Queens University in Charlotte, North Carolina. So,
yeah, that's about all we got for this week's edition of the Cobra Corner. Big congratulations to all of our teams for their exciting victories and hard work this week. Don't forget to come out and support your Cobras in the upcoming matches and events. Be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode. We'll recap all the action. Do the same thing all over again like normal. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Cobras.